All right, we're going to call the meeting of the City of Coos Bay Urban Renewal Meeting to order. And our first item on the agenda is public comments. So I will open it up if there's anyone that would like to make a public comment but not related to an item on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move to item 2, which is the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the consent calendar and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Under item 3, our action items, our first item is consideration to remove improvement grant program requests for 171 and 191 South Broadway. And that's Roger.
Yes, thank you. This has happened a couple of times for the agency, where the agency has approved a building improvement grant, and then for various reasons, the grant was, or the project was not undertaken in a timely manner, and requests came back for reapproval. Such is the case here with the properties at 171 and 191 South Broadway. David Harold is the owner. That project was previously approved, but was put on hold during COVID. He reached back out to us asking to move forward with the project, given the time lag from approval to actually commencing on the project. We felt it was appropriate to bring it back to ensure that the council, the agency wanted to reapprove it. As part of the process, we asked him to get refresh bids, which he has done. In all, the project would be for agencies portion at 50%, $11,750. The design assistance team, as part of their process, had already reviewed it. Since there are no changes from the initial application other than not replacing the awnings, we did not take it back to them. Staff is confident that the project meets the criteria of the agency and suggest that you consider it for reapproval.
Okay, and this is the property that houses the Cafe 101?
Yes, Cafe 101 and I believe Katrina Kathleen's.
I see on the proposal, it says colors to be determined.
We will share with them that those were determined by the the design assistance team. Should they want to change those colors, we would require them to go back to the design assistance team.
Because we wouldn't want to end up with pink.
You are correct.
Okay, so there is no issue then if we decide to move forward with this application and this award of the grant, that there is a process that would have to be followed to
Correct.
ensure that that.
And you could simply codify that with, that you approve it with the color scheme previously approved, unless approved by the, change approved by the design assistance team.
Any other discussion?
I just appreciate the fact that this followed the proper procedure, and these owners recognized that and didn't put this agency in a compromising position. So thank you to staff for bringing it back, and thank you to the owners as well.
All right, do I have a motion?
Move that we approve the improvement grant application for up to $11,750 of eligible expense, which is 50% of the total cost of the project, subject to submittal of any required permits.
Second?
Did you want the color scheme codified in that motion?
I'm sorry, I thought that was worked in there with the approval of the design assistant. Sorry.
All right. So we're
Design
covered.
assistance team's colors.
Okay, and, all right, so we have a motion and a second for approval of the improvement grant application for 171 and 191 South Broadway in the amount up to $11,750 of eligible expenses. And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is an approval of an improvement grant request for 170 South 2nd Street. And Nicole has this one.
Yes, I'm going to take that. Thank you. So similar scenario in that there was a little bit of delay in this project originally, and the owners are here tonight, so if we have questions, we can reach out to them. But originally, this project went before the design assistance team in October of last year, and just the winter months had a little bit of delay there. They've come back, able to get bids for, they have 3 elements. They've reduced the original project a little bit from what the design assistance team saw, but it's all within what they've approved. They were able to get the 3 bids for the project's individuals bids, so 3 bids in total, but 1 for each area of the project: windows, repainting, and the awnings. The total project is $60,270, and I believe they're asking for the traditional up to 25% of grant match for eligible expenses.
So on their application, the cover letter, it states something about $300,000 for the, did I read that correctly?
Yes, so that was their original application. We didn't have them reapply because their project is very similar. They just narrowed the scope down.
Are they doing
So-
$300,000 worth of?
No, $60,270,
right.
yeah.
Well, do you want me to lead out on this?
If
Sure.
you'd like.
Yeah, I'd like to lead out. We've set a precedent of 75% in the past, and I think we should do the same here. So I think we should fund $45,000 on this.
75%, have we talked about doing that before?
We had done that, we set a precedent, Commissioner DeNovo. Anyway, I think they're doing a good project. This is something that needs to be done. This is a large building that sits downtown, and so I would like us, and you know how I feel about 75%, so I will continue on that line. Anyway. So
I see that
make
the
a-
awnings have already been removed, which is,
Did you have anything that you'd,
would lead me to believe that you're going to move
Yeah.
forward with the project, whether we fund it or not, since it's already underway.
But the awnings were also removed on the previous project that we funded 75%.
I'm in support of this. I was teasing you, Mr. Mayor, but I am in
But anyway,
support of the
I think this
75%.
building's a large piece of property downtown. These 2 individuals have been around doing this for a long time, and I think you've already replaced those awnings one time before. They've been replaced at least once, I know. No, okay. Security, well, was it Security Bank or Umpqua Bank? Yeah.
okay, so are you going to?
I make a motion that we fund $45,000 of this project.
Second?
All right, we have a motion to fund $45,000 for this grant request for 170 South 2nd Street of eligible expenses, and a second. Any discussion?
Should the motion be up to 75%
Well-
instead of a $45,000?
Well, it could be, but it'd be a little bit more than 45,000 because there's some cents in there. So I could do that if you prefer.
Yeah, I think we should be consistent.
Okay.
I apologize, I missed why we're doing 45 instead of the requested 25.
Well, that's just, I don't know if it was requested, that's what is offered when you apply, I think the grants, am I incorrect, Nicole, on that, or am I right?
I can answer that. You're correct. I placed the 25,000 on there because that was
Oh, okay.
what the program actually talked about,
Correct.
is generally the cap.
Right.
But
And that's
the
case.
agency has the ability to increase that to 75%, the
Yeah.
discretion to do that.
Correct. Okay, so I will amend my motion to fund 75% of the grant application, which will be $45,202.50.
Second.
All right, we have an amended motion to approve the improvement grant for up to $45,500, whatever it was. She disappeared. $202.50. I was close. And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very generous. Appreciate that.
All right, our next agenda item is, and thank you for making that investment in our community. Our next agenda item is consideration to reject bids for the Coos Art Museum loading dock project. And I see Jennifer approaching the podium.
Hello. So the city owns the Coos Art Museum building and the art collection, which is located at 235 Anderson Avenue. The museum is managed by a board. Since the building is a city-owned building, any improvements to the building exceeding $50,000 is subject to prevailing wage. Additionally, the work must also follow local and state procurement rules for public improvements, thus a formal bidding procedure is required. So the museum is proposing improvements to the loading dock. The improvements consist of enclosing the existing dock to create additional storage. To do this, a portion of the dock will be demolished and cement masonry unit infill walls, wood-framed walls, and large double doors will be installed. Additionally, venting for the kiln, stucco, and paint will take place. The project is funded by the museum but must follow local and state procurement rules for public improvement. As a result, the city partnered with the museum board to help them advertise, bid, procure, and manage a contractor for this work. So the city advertised for bids on May 8th with the intent to open up bids on June 7th. The city extended the bid advertisement period due to lack of bidders on the bidders list to June 15th, and then extended it one more time to a final date of June 21st. Staff reached out to contractors to invite them to submit a bid. However, in the end, the city and the museum only received one bid from Richards Remodeling for $348,752. The architect's estimate was $100,000. When staff reached back out to contractors who did not submit a bid, the general consensus is that they were busy with large backlog and submitting on public improvement projects can be time-consuming. So the museum board met on June 28th and voted to reject the bids due to lack of funding. Per Resolution 22-2, titled Rules of Local Contract Review, Section 16, the agency can reject bids if it is in the public interest to do so. It's staff recommendation that the agency reject the bid. So should council agree, we have some recommended next steps. Should the agency reject the bid, the museum still needs to procure a contractor to do this work. Staff has investigated the local and state procurement requirements and recommends direct appointment through emergency procurement. So this is Section 11. The agency may enter into a public contract without competitive bidding when the circumstances that could not reasonably be anticipated necessitate the prompt establishment and performance of the contract in order to preserve public funds, property, or the uninterrupted provision of government services. There is no way the museum or staff could have predicted the difficulty in obtaining competitive bids, and the construction window, which is typically summer, early fall, is halfway over. If the agency agrees that this project is not constructed, it will impact the preservation of public property, and the difficulty in obtaining bids was unforeseeable, the following items shall also be met per Section 11. Number 1, obtain to the maximum extent reasonable informal quotes. So staff can directly work with a few local contractors. Preparation of formal competitive bids can be time-consuming, but it is staff belief that they will be successful in obtaining informal quotes. Item 2, so make written findings that support the impact of public property should this project not be performed. So the Coos Art Museum is the cornerstone for arts and culture on the southern urban coast. One of its goals is to further art education. The education program is thriving and needs more space. Closing the loading dock provides additional storage space, which frees up the adjacent room for a kiln, which will allow the museum to add pottery classes to its program. Currently, the loading dock is open and is subject to trash and debris being illegally dumped in this area. Also, there would be several instances where the trash was lit on fire. Closing the docks off will reduce the space available for this illegal and dangerous activity. So the final item associated with Section 11 is document the findings, the quotes obtained, and the reason for selecting the particular contractor. This can be provided by staff should the agency desire to procure a contractor for these improvements through emergency procurement.
Just out of curiosity, where was Richards Remodeling located? Are they local?
Roseburg.
So Jennifer, with staff intervening, I guess, and taking it over under this Resolution 22-1, Section 11, we believe that we can accomplish this At 100,000? Is that what we're intending to do here?
So that's the architect's estimate. Staff has not reviewed that estimate, but we have, while we wouldn't solicit any quotes until we got direction from council, we have reached out to a couple contractors, and so did the architect, and we believe that we could get an informal quote.
Okay. That's
Are there-
good. I'm glad, so.
Any other questions? Then how?
Another piece of trivia, our art museum is the third oldest in Oregon. Thought I remembered that. I had to look it up to double check. It's a-
No fake news here. Huh?
No, had to verify. Trust but verify.
I move to reject the formal bid from Richards Remodeling for $348,752 and approve staff to move forward with emergency procurement for this project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve reject the formal bid from Richards Remodeling and approve staff to move forward with emergency procurement for this project. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, do we have an executive session? Yes. We do, okay. So, and it's just urban renewal.
Councilor Kilmer, can I ask a question? I apologize, I should have asked it in the city council meeting, but we have just been talking about projects, and could you give us an update on where we are at with Restaurant O's project? I see that there's been a lot of paint and a lot of construction, and I know that we were told that that project would be complete by August, so I was hoping, if you do not have an update, that you can provide that to us at the next council meeting.
That is a great question. I do not have an update, but I would be more than happy to reach out and see where they're at with the timeline and what we can expect.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. With no further business coming before the agency, we will adjourn, or we will not adjourn, we will go into executive session.
URA Board will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.662(2)E for the purpose of discussing real property transactions. If the URA Board intends to come out of executive session to take final action, the presiding officer should announce when the open session will begin again. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decisions may be made in executive session.